Hello again, friends. This is your Agile delivery coach Mayuresh Deshpande, an earnest Agilist. Today we are going to talk about a typical question that a delivery manager has. How do I compare my two Scrum teams or multiple Scrum teams? Now I know that many of my purist Agile coach friends will say that there should not be such comparison, and I understand why they are saying so. But when I am representing multiple Scrum teams and I have answers to give to my management, these kind of questions are inevitable. But while that is true, there are some anti patterns, those are seen because of this anxiety, typical anxiety by any delivery manager. Over the years, I have actually seen multiple such anti patterns, but I'm going to talk about the commonly observed three top anti patterns. One is actually comparing the velocity or story points across two Scrum teams. One has to remember that story points is end of the day is a notional number, and when you start putting focus on such numbers, you actually see that the teams tend to oversize their estimates. For example, because you are going to monitor their velocity this way, a story that they would have otherwise measured at 3, they will probably start putting it as 5, so that by end of the sprint you see more story points being delivered or higher velocity. That is certainly not what you want to achieve. The second anti-pattern is assigning story points to individuals. This is probably the worst of all the anti-patterns. I have seen when you start doing this, it actually results into more spillovers, because an individual, a developer or a tester, in an attempt to earn maximum story points, is only task focused and moves on to a different task, to a different story, rather than helping complete the story that is assigned to this particular Scrum team. So you certainly want to avoid that kind of behavior. And the third anti-pattern that I want to talk about is comparing defects logged during the sprint across teams. When the method of defect logging is actually better left to the team, with of course a guidance from a coach or a Scrum master. The lesser the formality in logging the defects, the higher the chances of the defects getting solved sooner, and most importantly, the user stories getting completed within time. So now that we have talked about these anti-patterns, what is exactly can you do to see if your multiple teams are performing at a similar level? Well, the first thing that you could do is check whether the stories those are expected from the teams are being delivered in time with the right kind of outcome. How would you do that? Try to see the commitment ratios. Try to see and attend the demos and see what kind of comments you are getting within these demos. The team with a higher commitment ratio as well as with lesser comments is obviously doing something right to make sure that the stories are getting completed within the time and within the expected quality. The other often neglected aspect is checking the team temperatures and seeing how they are doing across teams. Encourage these kind of practices like taking team temperatures on a regular basis and persisting with it. The team that is struggling to get higher percentage of team temperature over a period of time obviously is going through certain challenges. You want to focus on those and make sure that that team is getting the right kind of help that is needed from you. Another thing that you can do is check the aging on the impediments of your Scrum teams. The team which is actually able to move through the impediments and remove the impediments faster than the team where the impediments are aging more, obviously is doing something right, is getting through their difficult times quicker. So you want to look at the teams which have impediments, those are aging, and see why that is the case. The team will be doing much better when they are self-sufficient in removing the impediments by themselves. Just to summarize then, we looked at how can you compare the performance of your Scrum teams. You definitely want to avoid anti-patterns when you do that. What are those anti-patterns? A, comparing velocity across different Scrum teams. B, assigning story points to individuals. And C, trying to compare the defect logged numbers between Scrum teams. So what can you do instead? First, try to look at the commitment ratio and the comments coming from the demos and see how they stack up within your teams. Also, look at the team temperatures within your teams. What you also want to do is to make sure you have a regular check on the aging of the impediments those are being logged and solved by your teams. And last but not the least, have good informal conversation with your product owners to see how the product owners feel about these teams separately. So that was that for today. Tune in for more such insights and do leave your comments. We would love to hear about your insights on these kind of topics. This is how we learn from each other. Once again, this is your Agile Delivery Coach, Mayuresh Deshpande, an earnest Agilist. Until we meet next time, have a great day. Bye.